Marvelous.
There you go.
Right, should we get going? We've got a few people, so we may as well kick off and say hi and introduce ourselves. So, I've got someone saying, Sonali saying she can't hear us. Is anyone else having the same issue? So you can hear me.
Yeah.
Folks, can anyone else not hear us? Sonali, can you hear either of us?
That's so strange because I can hear you really well.
Okay, right. So Ibrahim says he can hear us. Cool. Okay, great. Okay, so sorry, Sonali, I think it's an issue on your side, not ours. So should we do our introductions and then we can rock on?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it.
Right. So hello, everyone. I am a firefighter's wife. I just realized I'm wearing this t-shirt and thought, oh, right. Okay. Right. So yes, I'm a firefighter's wife, but far more importantly, I am the co-founder of Day One Careers here with my favorite business partner, Yevgeny. We'll just trip you through our origin story and then we can talk to you about how this whole session is going to work. So basically, we both worked at Amazon for a number of years and we did lots of interviewing at Amazon across those years. I as a bar raiser and hiring manager, and I think Yevgeny as a hiring manager. I'm just going to spin through it, Yevgeny, rather than split it apart. That's okay. So my time as a bar raiser, I interviewed across the world, many different countries, many different job families. And I started to notice that people were doing some rather strange things, but quite common strange things, which was even weirder because you usually expect some weird thing just to be an anomaly of someone else. But I found patterns. So I started to ask people why they had chosen to approach the question that way or why they'd chosen that particular strategy. And they pointed me towards YouTube. So back in the day, there wasn't that many channels on YouTube offering advice on Amazon interviews. Obviously, there is now an absolute smorgasbord available to you folks. But I went to YouTube and I discovered there were a couple of channels. And one of those channels, which was very popular, was created by someone who had never worked at Amazon before in their entire lives. And the only thing I could assume was that they were getting their information secondhand from someone else. And they were definitely misinterpreting some of this information. And some of the things they were saying was just plain wrong and was going to get candidates like not inclined if they used it. So that panicked me a little. And then one of the other channels and a couple of other channels I had seen were from Amazonians, but they were Amazonians who had worked in a very particular part of Amazon. They'd worked in only one geography and they'd worked in hiring only one particular type of candidate. So though the information they were giving was absolutely correct for that geography and that type of candidate, it wasn't broadly applicable. And because they'd only worked in that silo, they had no idea that it wasn't broadly applicable. But I did because I was a bar raiser. So I decided I would start my own channel, which I did, very much supported by Amazon internally, got lots of internal promotion from the HR team, etc. When my Amazon journey came to an end, I decided that I would just keep the channel going and actually I would see if I could make some kind of a little side hustle on this. So I set up a different business for this one, Amazon Interview Whiz Academy, and I sold digital courses and I didn't do coaching back then. Meanwhile, on a parallel trajectory in the same but somehow parallel world, we had the gorgeous Yevgeny, who had also worked in Amazon. And he was just such a lovely man. And what he was discovering was that when he was doing early phone screens with candidates, he decided that he would see if he could maybe give them a little bit of a hand at the end of their phone screens and give them a little bit of feedback if he thought they were kind of borderline pass fail. Give them some feedback, pass them through, and then kept an eye on how they did in the second round interview, because back then they were using first round and second round before going to loop, and discovered that his candidates who had only been kind of borderline, once they'd taken his advice on board, were actually doing much better in their second phone screen. So obviously, I guess it's no surprise, people that get coaching on the Amazon interview process do much better than those that don't. Yevgeny moved on to Apple, but decided he would also see if he could share a little bit more of his knowledge and set up his own business, which was Day One Careers. The two of us crossed paths, decided that we would do much better working together than we would do working against each other. We created Day One Careers as a new business, pulling together all of my insight and all of his insight. And we have created an incredible digital course. We have obviously this huge channel. We have information on our blogs, etc. And of course, this session that we run every single week without fail, come rain or shine, for you guys, you folks, to be able to ask us your questions. So, Yevgeny, would you like to share with the folks how this session is going to work?
So the way this works, folks, is, and I can see that you're already doing what you need to be doing, which is you're using the chat box to post your questions about behavioral interviews at Amazon. So post your questions in there. We're going to start bringing it up here on the screen, and we will answer them one by one if we feel like we have the expertise. For you to make the best out of this session, try to hit a sweet spot, sort of a middle road in terms of how general versus how specific your question is. For example, if you have a very foundational question, like I've got an interview next week, any tips? This is where we've got the YouTube channel for. All the foundational insights are there, and we will just have to refer you there. If, on the other hand, you have an interview for, let's say, a pre-construction manager who it's an actual job actually at Amazon, because they've got a lot of fulfillment centers and data centers, and there's a pre-construction manager is a genuine job title, and so you happen to be interviewing for that job, and you want us to advise you on your functional interview. We won't be able to do so because I don't know about you, Gigi, but I've never pre-constructed a data center.
Not personally. I've never pre-constructed a data center or be the manager of anyone who pre-constructed a data center.
Well, there you go. So try and keep it to all things behavioral, which are uniform across all job families and interviews. And just keep it specific to your situation, like what's happening with your process. What do you want to know? And then you're going to make the best out of this session. Now, last thing I would say is, if your question is a particularly long one, you will quickly discover that there's a limit in how many characters you can enter into that chat box. I think it's 255, but don't quote me on that. So in that case, it's not a problem. Just split your question into a thread. So into parts 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to get to all the parts when we're answering your questions. Have I missed anything?
No, perfect. Let's get going.
Cool.
Oh, I will say, folks, we're here in theory for an hour, but there's not a huge audience today, I think, because of the 4th of July weekend, etc. And lots of stuff going on in other parts of the world as far as holidays are concerned. So we'll keep going as long as you keep asking questions. If that's up to an hour, that's great. If it ends up that everyone dries up before then we will head off for our evening meals. All right. Do you want to pick the first one?
Yeah, sure. So there's the one from Fernando. Hey guys, not sure if you've ever had a story like mine. I got approved from the loop, not for the position I interview for, though they have other positions that they will offer me. Yes, that's the answer. I've heard about these. I've heard of multiple situations like these. Something similar happened with my interviews, and yeah. Nothing to worry about as long as you like the jobs that are being offered to you. So I don't really have anything else to add. It's not ideal, but it does happen. Anything you have to add?
No, only that obviously what's happened here is that from a Amazonian point of view, they feel that you are bar raising and you'll make an amazing Amazonian, but there was probably just some kind of technical skills gap in the specific role that you were applying for, and therefore they've decided they like you, they think you'd make a great Amazonian, so they're going to see if they can find that another role for you. I guess what I'll add to this, Fernando, is don't necessarily sit back on your laurels and wait for the recruiter to find you another role. If the recruiter isn't saying, yeah, Fernando, we have exactly the right role that we want to offer you, or if they're saying, we think you're great and we'd like to find you another role, those are different things. If there's we have an exact role that we're going to offer you, great, you're in. If it's we think we're going to try and find you other roles, then actually you're still quite a long way from the finish line, because someone has to find the right role for you that particular hiring manager wants to hire you for. So if that's the case, if it's the latter, go back onto the Amazon jobs portal and look at any other roles that you think would be suitable for you and apply for them. And then let this recruiter know, who you were referring to in your comment, that you've applied for these other roles, and ask her to make contact with the other recruiter. And then that way you're being really proactive, because your rubber stamp of approval only lasts for 6 months within the same job family. Okay, shall I pick the next one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I have upcoming interview for a TAM, technical account manager. For those of you who don't know what a TAM is, going to Loop. I'm good to handle the technical, but for behavioral, may I know tips on how I can use the same project story for different leadership principles? Any tips, please? Okay. So the main difference between talking about something functionally and talking about it from a leadership principle point of view is the emphasis that you place on the story. So what you're basically saying to me is, I have a common situation that I would like to be able to talk about from a functional point of view, and I would also like to be able to talk about from a leadership principle point of view. So when you're talking about that situation from a functional point of view, you need to talk about the functional aspect of your role. So the technical things that you did, the decisions that you made around the technical aspects, why you made those decisions, what choices you had, all those types of things. If you want to talk about it from a leadership principle point of view, you need to be talking about how you went about conducting yourself in that particular situation. So they're looking for the particular behaviors associated with the leadership principles. So how did you earn trust? Did you send did you buy someone a bunch of flowers? Did you invite them to your office? Did you schmooze them? Did you take time to really understand how they were feeling? Did you take time to understand what some of their challenges were and conflicts were, et cetera, et cetera? You will find there's crossover between talking about something functionally and talking about something from a leadership principle point of view, but it's really about where the emphasis is. From a leadership point of view, you're going to be talking mostly about the hows from the leadership principles, and you'll probably end up talking about some of your functional actions and thoughts and processes about 20%. And if you're focusing on the actual functional actions, your technical knowledge, your technical decisions, you'll probably find that's about 80%, but you'll end up covering some leadership principle stuff for about 20%. Does that make sense, Evgeny? Is there any way you think you can make that clearer? Okay.
Cool. All right.
The next one?
Okay. So thanks for the session. I downloaded the Amazon Interview Tool Pack and I've been preparing with that. I found a question that I found particularly challenging and would appreciate if you can let me know how I can approach this. Talk me through a time when there was a tension between your business goals and the needs of the customers. Well, I guess it's a customer. It's a plausible question within the customer obsession leadership principle, which we have invented, and it demonstrates. Well, I guess it tries to probe your ability to square responding to the needs of the customers versus the viability of the business. And the idea there is essentially, if you wreck the business in order to satisfy the customers, you won't be able to do it for much longer because the business is going to be dead, and you won't be able to keep on serving customers anymore. So you need to find a situation where there was that tension, and you managed to, and you found it in you to walk that very fine line to square essentially the needs of the business so that the business can continue being viable and serving customers versus giving it all up to the customers who are never satisfied quite enough. Did that make any sense?
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. If you need an illustration, Sonali, to bring it to life, we could probably talk about Prime and the pricing for Prime. So a business goal would be to make more money out of Prime. And you can make more money out of Prime by either acquiring more people or putting up the price. So Amazon at some point are thinking, okay, we want to put up the price of Amazon Prime because we need to make more money. But the needs of the customer is clearly not going to be to spend more money on Amazon Prime. Customers are never going to want to spend more money on Amazon Prime. So Amazon have to think about, how do we find a way to add value to ourselves and add value to our customers? And that's how they ended up bundling Amazon Prime with more and more of their ancillary services. So that's how you end up with Prime Reading, where you get one book a month. That's how you ended up with having access to Prime Video content. That's how you ended up having access to Prime Music. That's how you ended up having access to Family Prime, wherever all of your family can use Prime, and all of the other things that you can now get as part of Amazon Prime. That's one of those situations that Amazon had to face in terms of how do we square the need to make more money out of Prime, but the fact that that doesn't meet a customer need. No one needs to spend more money on their Amazon Prime for the same thing. Okay.
Yes.
Shall we move on? Okay. You're welcome, Fernando. You're more than welcome. Fernando's saying thank you for the content. Okay, so I'll pick this one from Ibrahim. Tell me about a time when you or your team were more than halfway to meeting a goal when you realized it may not be the right goal or may have unintended consequences. Okay, so that's a question you've got from somewhere, Ibrahim. Okay. I'm having trouble thinking through this type of question. Okay, so Ibrahim, that's not a question, that's a statement. So if you need something from us, feel free to ask us a specific question, but currently that's a statement rather than a question. So have a think about what exactly you want Yevgeny and I to be able to give you guidance on, and drop a question at the very bottom. Sorry, Yevgeny, I didn't realize, so I'm going to pick another one. Okay. Bindu, what to do if 6 months validity of client interview vote expires, and if we are not mapped into any role at the time frame? I'm afraid that's really unfortunate, Bindu, but there's nothing you can do. If you've been constantly looking and applying for roles at Amazon and your 6 months has now expired, then there's nothing you can do about it. You end up effectively becoming a cold candidate, and you'll have to go through the process from beginning to end. So if you're coming up on that final deadline of your 6 months, step up the pace, have a look, and make sure you're applying for any role that you think is appropriate for you. But beyond that, there's nothing you can do. Do you want to pick the next one, Yevgeny?
Yes. Well, the next one is also a statement. And a thank you note. And I think that's it.
Right. Okay, folks, we're out of questions. So that was pretty fast. We're only 20 minutes in. So I tell you what I'm going to do, folks. I'm going to ask you all a little favor. And whilst I'm asking you a favor, if anyone else has any questions, they can absolutely drop them in. So the little favor that Yevgeny and Gigi are asking you is, obviously, we put a massive amount of effort into these sessions. We're here for an hour every single week, or at least up to an hour every single week. You can see the YouTube channel is full of amazing content. We have a free community that we enable you all to join, and we have an amazing AI bot there that Yevgeny built that takes all of the content of the YouTube channel and can answer questions for you. We've got the Amazon interview preparation toolkit, which somebody referred to earlier, which is a complete freebie total giveaway that's got a whole list of plausible Amazon interview questions in it. We're doing a whole bunch here to try and help you, and it is our privilege and our pleasure. But in return, we have a teeny tiny favor to ask you all, and it's not spending thousands of dollars with us. It is just clicking the like button when you watch any of the content on the channel, or indeed when you are watching this stream itself. So what that does is it tells YouTube two things. It tells the algorithm that they have surfaced the content to the right person, and that person was actually looking for that content. And it also says that person liked that content. And then what the YouTube algorithm does is it basically kind of bumps Day One Careers content up in terms of the results, so that more people get content that they were looking for and actually they like. So what I'm just going to briefly do is ask you to watch a little kind of snippet for 15 seconds. And whilst you're doing that, please hit the thumbs up button for this stream. And then if I come back after that, and we still have no more new questions, I'll just take you through the freebies that we're here to offer you. And then we could all get on with our days. But hopefully there are going to be a couple more questions, because there are a few people here now. So just going to run this very, very short piece of video. And whilst that's playing, please do give it a thumbs up. Here we go. No, we're not going to run that video. I will explain to Yevgeny why we're not going to run that video.
Wait. Can I guess? Is it because StreamYard took away our brand?
StreamYard took away our ability to do that, because those buggers have been trying to force us to upgrade our plan for so long. It's I swear to God, Yevgeny, we've probably got like our own unique segment in StreamYard, and every single week they go, right, what can we do to those people this week to try and force them to upgrade? So folks, we will not be playing that video.
But instead of folks, this just so that you know, this is the demonstration of one of the least interviewed leadership principles at Amazon, which is called being absolutely dirt cheap. I mean, frugality. So that's basically us. But
yes, we are working on frugality. It's a bit of a, we used to call it paper clips and elastic bands when I was working in my old company. You're kind of holding the whole thing together just with elastic bands and paper clips. So yeah, no video, but please do give us a thumbs up and we would be extremely good. Oh, there you go. You got a little bit of 4th of July.
Oh, come on.
Still 4th of July. Oh, it doesn't even work for you, and StreamYard aren't even in control of that. All right. So we've got a couple more questions. So should we do those questions, Yevgeny?
Yeah, come on then, let's do that. Okay, so as I have my interview only 1 week, is a good time to take the 275 Amazon interview success system. Is it worth? I'm planning to take leave this 1 week from a regular office. I mean, yes. If in fact, even if you were not planning on taking the leave, I would say yes. Because a week to a week and a half, depending on the intensity and everyone's abilities to absorb the material and build the stories and run them through the AI, that's pretty much what we've planned for. But if you're planning on taking leave and dedicate a lot more than just a handful of hours per day, and then for sure, you do have enough time.
Yeah, definitely. That would be a nice, comfortable amount of time. I think you could probably go from 0 to 100% preparation in that time with the system there, which will really hold your hand through the whole thing. Okay, so let's just pick up Ibrahim's question now. Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. What do we do if our experience doesn't match with the question being asked? Okay, so you have 2 options, but actually I would suggest you execute them both, and I'll if you need to. So first thing is, if you feel you have a story that comes close to answering the question, even if it's not 100%, what you can say to your interviewer is almost exactly this. I don't think I have a story that exactly answers your question, but I have one that I think comes close. Can I share that with you in just a couple of lines, and you let me know if that's going to work for you? They will say yes, inevitably. And then you need to share that story with them. But please do just keep it to a very summarized 3 or 4 lines. If they're happy with that, they'll say, yes, that's fine. You just go on. And then great, you can just tell that story. If they say to you, no, I'm sorry, I really don't feel that's going to work, then your response needs to be, okay, in which case, I don't want to waste your time or my opportunity. Can you give me a different question, please? It is absolutely allowable to ask for another question. You don't want to do it too many times, because if you're repeatedly saying, I don't have that experience, I don't have that experience, I don't have that experience, then ergo you look like someone that does not have the appropriate breadth of experience that Amazon is looking for. But you can certainly do it once in an individual, a kind of early round phone screen, and you can probably get away with it 2 or 3 times, maybe, if you get to a loop with 5 people. Now, the reason why it's important to ask your interviewer whether you can use a story that's almost there, rather than just jumping in assuming you can use that story, is it puts the responsibility on the interviewer if you end up choosing the wrong story that isn't actually giving them what they need. Because if you've explained to them what the story is, they've said, yes, go ahead, I think that will be fine, and it ends up not being fine, that's on them. That's their fault. They told you it was going to be fine. One of the biggest complaints from interviewers across the board, historically, in the past, and promise you present and future, is that candidates don't answer the question that they were being asked. And if you get a repeat of they didn't answer the question, they didn't answer the question, then you look like someone who is not actively listening. And nobody wants to hire someone who clearly can't actively listen, because there's a risk that if you put them in front of your manager or your manager's manager, they will not actively listen, and they'll embarrass themselves and they'll embarrass you. So To avoid you being labeled with they weren't listening to the question, you check in with your interviewer as to whether that version of your story is going to be okay. And if it isn't, that's their fault, not your fault. Hope that makes sense.
Made total sense.
Okay, so folks, we're out of questions now. So what I think I'll do is we can go over the freebies, Yevgeny, and then if no one shows up with any more questions, then all of the folks can get on with their day, and we can too. So
cool.
Let's just put this there.
Whose turn is it to talk through them?
I'll spin through it. It's fine.
Okay.
Right. So, folks, down here is the URL for where you can get our incredible freebies, right? They are without question the best freebies. I say without question. There's all, in my opinion anyway, there's no way of measuring that. The best freebies that you will find on the web, anywhere actually, to prepare yourself for the Amazon interview. What's on the end of that link is basically three things. First thing is a sample of our flagship Amazon Interview Success System course that individual was talking about earlier on. Basically, that course will take you from knowing zero about how to be prepared for your Amazon interview all the way through to being 100% prepared and having your stories reviewed with feedback and expertise. So like the whole gamut, this is what that course covers. Now, obviously, we're not giving you that whole thing for free. We're just giving you a little bit of a snippet of it. And the snippet we're giving you is the customer obsession part of that course. Customer obsession is obviously the key backbone leadership principle of Amazon. And what this little snippet gives you is an insight into the different versions of customer obsession, because there's actually a number of different flavors, we call them facets of customer obsession, and the different questions that you'll face in interview actually approach customer obsession through those different facets. So we'll share those facets with you so that you can identify the right situations from your career history to make sure you're prepared with the right types of stories for your Amazon interview. The other thing that you get as part of that customer obsession piece is insight on what the interviewer is looking for from your story. So you can basically build backwards your story using that insight on what the interviewer is looking for and to the situations that you've identified from the facets. The next thing it gives you is the Amazon interview preparation tool pack that someone else was talking about on that live. That's basically, it's got a few different tools in it, but the main thing it has in it is a massive bank of what we call plausible Amazon interview questions. They're not the actual Amazon interview questions. We can't give those to you. But because we are very knowledgeable of what Amazon interviewers are likely to ask you and what they're looking for, we've created our own version. So you can absolutely use those for preparation and for practicing how you would answer particular questions. Obviously, don't assume that you'll get asked that exact question at the interview, because you won't, but similar type stuff. So it's really, really good for preparation. The third thing, if you pick either of those two things, it gives you access to our Heartbeat community. We've got a good few thousand people on that Heartbeat community, either who have historically been interviewing at Amazon or currently interviewing at Amazon. There are different channels on that community, so you can ask people to buddy up with you and you can do practice mock interviewing between each other. And we also have that AI tool that I talked about earlier, which is basically a custom chat GPT that we have fed everything that's in the YouTube channel. So if you have any questions at all, if it exists in the YouTube channel, you can just ask that custom bot rather than trawl your way through all of the content on the YouTube channel. So honestly, they are incredible freebies and there's just no reason not to take them. They will move you on in your interview preparation, even if you would take nothing more as regards our services. All right, so folks, it kind of sounds like that's it for this week. It's a little bit quiet, but I wasn't surprised. I mentioned to Yevgeny, I thought it was going to be a bit quiet this week because of the 4th of July weekend. So if you've got interviews coming up this week, we have our fingers very, very tightly crossed for you. If you think of a question that you forgot to ask us now, you can just go to the YouTube channel and bang it down there on any of the videos, and we will happily respond to you probably within about 48 hours. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Next week, folks.
Bye.
Good luck. Bye.